So across Saudi Arabia and the world, sport is no longer just entertainment. It's becoming a powerful engine for urban transformation, economic diversification, and global positioning. We're seeing cities reimagined through sport, not just through mega events. Through integrated destinations like Qiddiya and the Riyadh Sports Boulevard, through the nationwide impact of the FIFA World Cup 2034, and major regeneration projects like Jeddah Central Project, apologies. So they aren't just sports projects, they're city-building strategies. And today, hopefully, we're going to answer 3 key questions. How do sports cities actually drive economic growth? What role do innovation and technology play? And how do partnerships unlock long-term value? So let's establish first why sports cities matter. And I'd love to start with you, Ahmed, because I mentioned Riyadh Sports Boulevard. I believe you've already delivered phase 1 of the project.
Absolutely.
If you haven't been to Sports Boulevard, I greatly encourage you to go because it's really amazing. I go there almost every weekend. So when people look on projects like Sports Boulevard, they see lifestyle, parks, and public spaces. But behind that, there's a bigger economic and investment story. So could you tell us why a project like this matters and why Sports Boulevard for Riyadh?
Sure. So you're right. Many people, when they think about sports developments or sports-led developments, they really think about cycling paths and walkways and sports-focused opportunities that we are delivering to the city. But the way we see it is we see it as a catalyst. It is an economic catalyst, both from value creation to the landowners, both to as institutional grade investment opportunities, to the general quality of life within the city. Now, to us, we believe that healthy cities create wealthy cities. And so the offering of Sports Boulevard within Riyadh, the location of that master plan, what we are offering, the access that we are giving to the masses, this allows for demand attraction. It allows for the masses to interact with the project. It allows for investors to see the footfall and to see what it is that we are creating. And this leads us away from, so it's sports-led, but it's not only sports-focused. The overarching motif is that it is sports, it is healthy living, micro-mobility, interconnectivity to the city. However, what we really are giving is a full urban transformation to allow access to the people of Riyadh, the residents and the visitors and the investors alike, the opportunity to be able to participate in what is now becoming a trending lifestyle.
So it's about building community, strengthening that community.
Exactly.
Speaking of community, Salman, as the quality of life program, I think for our international guests, it'd be great if you could explain what those pillars are and what is the quality of life program?
Thank you for that big question. And please allow me to elaborate a little bit about the quality of life as a concept, not as a program in Saudi Arabia. Because we believe in the philosophy of quality of life. Actually, quality of life is a result of the interaction between the livability and the lifestyle in the city, where we define the livability as the infrastructure, the city itself, the buildings, the spaces, while the lifestyle is the life happening, the content created, the social interactions happens in the city. These two elements, when they integrate together, the result is quality of life. So from that angle, I believe that sport in this context is not just a sector among others. It's a very fine thread that ties 3 main dimensions to the quality of life. And I would elaborate on them as follows. First dimension is the health and economics of the city. We know practicing sport increases the public health, and we measure that in Vision 2030, and we have reached so far, we actually overcome the 2030 targets. Before Vision 2030, the percentage of people practicing sport was like 13%. Today we have reached 52 or 51.
52%.
52%.
Wow. And that was achieved in how many years?
Since
Just only a couple,
2015,
like
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. And this is the first dimension where we measure the health of the people. Do they really practice sport? Do they really practice physical activities? And the answer, because we incentivize this, is yes. Number two, or the second element of the first dimension is the GDP. The GDP contributed by sports sector in Saudi Arabia in 2016 was 2.4 billion SAR. Today, we're talking about 10 plus, and we are aiming to 18 billion SAR by 2030. That's the first dimension, the health and economy. The second dimension is the urban and social, where we believe the public space can be transformed from passive corridor, like Sport Boulevard, for example. It used to be a passive transportation road. Today, it is a mean of social activities where people can meet, where people can practice sport, do nice things, meet each other, buy things, and exercise sport. The third dimension is the city competitiveness, where we measure the rank of Saudi cities among other cities in quality of life. That has multiple dimensions, one of which is the ability of the city to attract talent, the offering of healthier lifestyles in the city, and these things are scoring well in Saudi cities as well.
I think we definitely see that in Saudi culture. Saudis try and get any opportunity to go outside, no?
Sure.
So here we have something that is going to, that glue of the community. Angus, I want to use your international lens and your experience. Why do sports cities matter?
Sports cities matter because they sit, as Salman once said, at the integration of health, economy, and the one thing I think perhaps you didn't touch on, but equally with many of our clients is as important, is identity. So from a health and wellness perspective, sports cities create the focus for their local populations and the programming to bring people into sports participation, which has the health benefits which you mentioned. From an economic perspective, generating jobs in terms of within the health and wellness sector, within retail, where there are mixed-use developments, and within the event sector. And equally, I think, as we have seen many, many times, sports cities are very good at generating value add for the investments, which I think, Ahmed, you touched on. Second, they're a very good anchor for regeneration and for generation of cities, so for city development. And then finally, for identity, clearly within the cities, not all cities, but many sports cities have significant and iconic venues which are hosting major sports events. And those are generating significant international presence and destination place marketing value in international markets to promote that city. But I think the final thing I would say is that sports cities matter differently depending on the city's stage of development. So I think early on, they're a very good focal point for government, for policy and for investment, and to catalyze investment. And I think later on, as cities, some of which I'll touch on later, reach maturity, it becomes much more systemic in the way in which you go about developing the city as a sports city.
And let's go one step further. Which sports cities models truly work and which ones don't?
I would actually slightly challenge the premise a little bit. I think some of the best examples of what we might consider sports cities are cities where sport is much more embedded. They probably don't necessarily narrowly think of themselves as sports cities. It's not about the iconic venues and the major sports events that they host. It's about the density of sports participation and the depth of the ecosystem and the supply chain that sits around those cities. And we would always say that much of the ecosystem and the depth of participation has done the heavy lifting well before the ribbon is cut on the opening of a new sports facility. So the classic examples, and they're probably ones that are well known to the audience and to the panelists, would be Melbourne. Melbourne in Australia, we have worked with for the 2 decades that we've been in business. They have some of the most high-profile events in the world with F1, with the Australian Open, with the Boxing Day Test, with the Ashes series, and they have some of the most iconic venues in the world, with the MCG, which actually was born out of the 1956 Olympics, and with the Rod Laver Arena. But it's not those venues that now, as a mature sports city, make that city successful. It's the fact that community sport is so well connected to the elite sports and to the elite sports venues. They're extremely well coordinated between state government with Visit Victoria, and I know I'm speaking to an Australian, with Visit Victoria.
It's all familiar for me, yeah.
And the precursor to that was Victoria Major Events Company, who coordinates with the city on behalf of the city to deal with programming of major events. And the state government has also invested in around 350, 400 community sports facilities over the years. So it's worked extremely well as a sports city, but it's now at a level of maturity where it's always it's sort of an endemic part of their DNA, but I think it's less self-consciously that they promote themselves as a sports city because it's just so endemic.
Yeah, and as I grew up in Australia, so I would add to that that even in the school curriculum, sport is so embedded that it's something that we really grow up with. I know you charge by the hour for this professional advice, but I'm going to be cheeky here and ask you what mistakes should Saudi Arabia avoid when designing sports cities?
Okay, so this is not a Saudi Arabia problem. It's a problem everywhere we work in the world. I think the first thing to avoid is, and again, I stress it's not just here, but it's what we might call building the house from the roof down. So it's about building and investing in the systems of sports participation and the ecosystem alongside in parallel, ideally ahead of the major venues that you build. I could get a little bit more granular and specific and say that we in the last 10 years have worked much more with major stadia on 365 day of the year programming. And what has become increasingly clear to us is that some of those stadia needed, or the city governments in which they're cited, needed to have thought more about planning and zoning. So I'll give you some examples. We work with Bernabeu, Real Madrid, which is now subject to a number of injunctions and legal actions, preventing them from hosting concerts because they're in a densely populated, quite wealthy residential area. The same happens within my home country, the UK. Twickenham is within the borough of Richmond, very well resourced, very wealthy, very densely populated, and they won't allow them to hold concerts, so to monetize year-round. So I think planning and zoning. 2, connectivity. You talked about that in terms of connectivity, really important across the venue, between the venue and the major city. 3, build with good data. So make sure that, I mean, we as a company sit on 1,500 years of trading data cumulatively. We're announcing a partnership today with 4 global high-tech demand and supply tools, and we do a lot with fan and data analytics to look at programming, to work with good data. And 4, as I said, recognize that as much as anything, it's about investing in the community and the systems of sport around the venues in parallel with the venues themselves, so that you have that endemic sports usage that fills up those facilities.
I just want to touch on those examples, Ahmed. Was there anything that Angus said that resonated? Were there any international models or lessons that Sports Boulevard took inspiration from, or perhaps took those lessons and are applying?
Absolutely. And really, the key thing that we did is a change of mindset, where...
A change of?
A change of mindset.
Mindset.
Where we did not view the public realm as a sunk cost or a beautification program. The way we see it is the public realm is actually the ultimate asset class that enables everything else. So taking examples of the High Line in New York or King's Cross in London, and we saw from those experiments or from those developments how creating a beautiful public realm that is open to all, that is not gated, that is not in a pocket somewhere around the city or in the outskirts of the city, really helps drive value. And what we saw is that when we really intertwined the public realm with the private development opportunities, the investment market really was very attracted to that because it is part and parcel of the city. We cross it west to east. We cut Riyadh west to east on Prince Mohammed bin Salman Road. When His Royal Highness the Crown Prince came up with the vision, it was not just an urban transformation or urban regeneration, it was a 360-degree sustainable offering to Riyadh. And what makes us special, and this is a lesson that we've learned, is that we are not limited by the boundary of the project. Because we cut through all of Riyadh, west to east, across 35 kilometers on MBS Road alone, we are entrenched and organically embedded within all of the neighborhoods we cross. And so this allowed us to be able to differentiate our offering across the multiple demographics, all socioeconomic scales. We benefited from the metro stations that are within the project. So we are promoting micromobility. We are promoting the alternatives to just, Riyadh is typically a car city. We're promoting those alternatives of public transportations. And so all of these little lessons that we've implemented in the overall program are learned from all of these regenerations that happened around the world. And so what many see as, fine, I have to do some landscaping and plant some trees, we see it as an ultimate investment in order to drive growth and value in the future.
So you're almost kind of like becoming the artery of the city. You're complementing all the urban planning. I want to move on to innovation technology. It seems like every day there is some new technology we're trying to be sold, and there's in health or making life easier or efficiency or more efficient. Is technology solving real problems in sports cities, Angus, or are we over-engineering them?
Yes and no. So I think that with sport, with many other sectors too, but with sport particularly, we tend to kind of use it as a tech showcase. So whether we're talking about new turnstile technology, digital wallets, crowdflow, digital twins, all of the things which you'll be very familiar with. Sometimes, though, in our experience, there's a sense of creating an app for app's sake. There are solutions looking for problems, and they are kind of impressively unnecessary in many cases. So I think from a technological perspective, we would say that anything which, as the sort of acid test, anything which adds complexity without increasing sports participation or the consumption of sport is questionable, unnecessary. Anything conversely which removes friction and eases the experience of consuming or participating in sport and kind of disappears into the experience. And there are many very good examples of that, from digital wallets, again, to integrated stadia and transportation apps. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I have to grudgingly respect Tottenham Hotspur's technology in that regard, that allows fans to get in-seat beverages and food, that allows them to understand quick and easy egress from stadia, that does demand loading and dynamic pricing across sports facilities at community level. All of those things tend to just improve and enhance the experience, and as I said, just disappear into the experience. And that's when I think you really know that tech is working well.
Yeah, and off the back of that, Salman, I want to bring it to you, because I would imagine that you're using innovation and tech to measure whether people are actually using these spaces.
Exactly. Actually, the most important thing to measure in quality of life is not how much we build, because that's obvious, and we measure that, but how much people is living a worth living life. This is the very important question. That's why we measure throughout multi-layer system of measurements, where definitely the digital twin digital spatial measurements is one of them, to track exactly what's happening everywhere. But moreover that, another layer, which is behavioral and digital layer, people are using services that is related to sport, for example. In our case, we have the Sport for All Federation helping us measuring the real interaction and happening with the app, whether they practicing or measuring their steps or whatsoever. Also, the third layer, which is the survey-based layer, that been done on a national level by statistical authority or from sport ministry or from any other entities, and we do that as well in quality of life. The fourth layer, which is the outcome. Okay, people are practicing sport. Are they becoming healthier or not? That's the end result questions, and we measure that as well. With 4 layers, we can answer almost every question when it comes to quality of life, and we are developing our tools and testing new technologies along the way.
Seems like you have a pretty solid processes there. And speaking of usage, Ahmed, Sports Boulevard isn't just a sports destination, but how do you ensure that it becomes a part of daily life and it's not something that people visit occasionally?
Great question. So Sports Boulevard is one of the projects that is not gated, right? And just the master plan in and of itself encourages people because it will be part of their daily life. The fact that it's located where it is, crossing through the neighborhoods it does, and so whether you're going to work or you want to cross the street or you want to grab something to eat, you want to exercise, this is the great destination. We have something like about 2 million people within the city are within a 15-minute cycling, radius, right? They can get to Sports Boulevard. And so it's not, we don't really see it as a destination. We see it as an add-on to the city, right? We see it as complementary and raising the standard that we believe that the citizens of Riyadh deserve. And so it is not, for example, if you're going to the movies or a theme park or something where you just go, you experience it once and you leave. There's always something to do. The activations are running all year round. We are creating an atmosphere where you want to go there even if you don't really want to exercise, even if you just want to hang out, grab something to eat. We have great retail and F&B offerings. It's just a place that is built to standards that allows people to just enjoy being there. And it will make their lives much easier considering the connectivity to the bus routes, the micromobility solutions that we have, the metro stations that are on the boulevard itself. And so we don't see it as a destination to visit, but rather as a part of everyday life to become.
Yeah, and just remind us, how many phases are there and when are they expected to be, when is Sports Boulevard project expected to be finished?
So Sports Boulevard extends for 135 kilometers. It starts from Wadi Hanifa on the western side of the city, and then it cuts the city on Prince Mohammed bin Salman Road, all the way to Janadriya Road, and then it goes up from King Fahd Stadium to Bin Ban. So everything I just told you is a cycling path and walkway. With the exception of on Prince Mohammed bin Salman Road, we also have rooms for private sector investments and participation. Now, we've already opened up phase 1, so we have the Wadi Hanifa portion that's open. We have the promenade, which is on the beginning of Prince Mohammed bin Salman Road, that's ready. Our Sand Sports Park up in Northeast is also complete and beautiful. And a must visit for cycling enthusiasts and desert enthusiasts. And I believe that we have a portion to be open every fiscal year, right? So that by the time,
say that again, every fiscal year?
Every fiscal year, we're planning on opening up a portion of the project. And what you see now, however beautiful it is, it's only going to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, very ambitious. And another aspect of it is that it's blending public leadership with increasing private sector participation. So when you're structuring these partnerships, are investors today more driven by the iconic flagship assets or by predictable long-term return models that build over time?
So the flagship and iconic assets are what gets them interested. Our economics is what gets them to commit. So the program as a whole, our iconic assets, our public realm, all the money we're spending on landscape and infrastructure, this piques their interest. But then once they come in and sit at the table and see the plethora of opportunities that we have, how we're structuring our deals, what is the offering, the long-term predictability and visibility of our investment opportunities, that's what gets them to commit. And that's what has been successful for us in the past, where we closed some significant transactions. We have a few more to announce this year. And so far the trend has just been moving upwards. And it is they understand the value of what it is we are creating. And the institutional grade offering that we have, whether it's the iconic assets such as the Global Sports Tower or the amphitheater or our public realm, all of those elements tell a great story when coupled with solid, fundamental metrics and economics. And so far it's been successful, and we hope to continue doing the same.
And Angus, going off the back of what Ahmed said, your international experience, what actually gives investors the confidence to commit to commit long-term to sports infrastructure, and perhaps what makes them hesitate?
I think investors are very attracted to sport, but they much prefer it when it behaves just like real estate.
I guess it's more anticipated, right? Those models of anticipation.
Exactly. So I think that the first thing is the fundamentals. So the political and economic stability, good governance, good policy, predictable environment. After that, as Ahmed said, it's about putting that within predictable but diversified revenue streams, and then. I think if we use the experience, again, we've done a lot of work with using an international example with the London Olympic Park. We started working with that prior to the Olympic bid, when Stratford, the area in which it's located, was one of the most economically disadvantaged areas in Europe. And so the most important transformation, and that was the political considerations and conditions for the support of the bid, was to transform that very, very poor area of London through the bid. But actually, the much more important piece of development was what came next in its legacy mode. And so the important lessons from that are, for your key assets, you need one or a number of anchor tenants. So in that case, we obviously have West Ham in the stadium, and then we have UCL and Loughborough universities in the park. You need really good mixed use, so we have fantastic retail with Westfield, and then it goes beyond that into community sports facilities, with Greenwich operating as operating many of the facilities in their transition mode away from Olympic Games, and that creates the sort of environment where investors start to feel more confident in the asset as an investment opportunity.
So good mixed use, community sports facilities,
correct,
and key assets.
Yeah.
And I know you work a lot with governments and their entities. What is something that governments misunderstand about what investors want?
I think again, probably we'll slightly repurpose what I said, but I think the common mistake is to build venues as event destinations and not to build them as long-term sports facilities, especially in a mix for everyday use. I think that's the most common mistake that we see. It's really exciting to have a piece of statement architecture as an iconic venue hosting 20 spectacular events a year, but a sports facility or a mix of sports facilities hosting 300 events a year is an economic engine. And that is what is investable. So I think it has to always go beyond event mode. And most of our work is thinking about long-term usage, using trading data and demand and supply analysis, which I said we have an enormous amount of, to make sure that if you give us a zip code, we can pretty much tell you what will work in that facility or mix of facilities in a mixed-use development, both in terms of gap analysis and using sort of population level and participation data to really help you understand where there's likely to be demand, both within the sporting and the wider leisure context, and including in terms of businesses and conferencing and everything else for those facilities, to get that mix right.
And to bring in quality of life here, what partnerships are essential to ensure that quality of life is a long-term ambition, it's not just a policy goal, and something that people experience day to day?
Well, if you ask me, when do we say quality of life has become real? My answer is this. When the citizen lives it every day and doesn't realize this is a public policy.
Yeah, yeah.
So, therefore, we look to our partnerships from four multiple layers, let's say. First, G2G, government to government. When, for example, the Sport Boulevard has started as RCRC project. Now it became a standalone entity enabled by multiple government entities, and this is kind of partnership we're looking for from G2G. Number two, or second layer, the private sector, PPP. Example, Sport Boulevard again. In this project, they have allocated 2.3 million square meters for investors.
2.3 million square kilometers just for investors.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is not a real estate investment. It is a lifestyle investment. So people has to find experience, not the retail shops only. So, and this is important. Number three is the community to government. When we partner with community, and Quality of Life has incentivized multiple initiatives and funded multiple of them to host big events, to set volunteering opportunities, thousands of sport activities happening in Riyadh and other cities, and this is partnership between the community and the government. The fourth layer is the knowledge partnership, where we look for always with the right knowledge houses, let's say. We partner with universities, with consulting firms, with experience houses, where we find best practices, not to adapt them as is, but to modify them to fit the Saudi context. So in a nutshell, this is how we look at the partnerships from multiple angles, and we believe quality of life only happens when these all works together.
Yeah. And Ahmed, I just want to ask you, because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in what Sports Boulevard has to offer. I know you touched on it before, but are there any other investable opportunities that you can think of that are worth mentioning?
So definitely we do, and we are phasing these opportunities to go in line with the development of the public realm. We initially had 2.3 million square meters of GFA offered for the private sector. We are seriously considering increasing that amount because of because of pretty much the appetite that we're seeing. So far we've closed 2 significant transactions for mixed-use developments within Sports Boulevard, and I'd like to note the fact that these are within the park. So these are not adjacent, right, or sort of offset. These are within the park. They are catered to everyone within this beautiful public realm, and so we are really embodying the live, work, play approach. And so we have plenty more of opportunities to come, some as early as the next quarter to be floated to market, and we plan on doing between 1 to 2 major transactions per year for the next 4 or 5 years. We want to deal with the best of the best developers locally, regionally, and internationally. We've already been successful in raising significant amount of capital, including foreign direct investments straight into the project. And we believe that by the end of the program, it will truly be a one-of-a-kind project that the city is deserving of. And so stay tuned. We're going to be reaching out to many, many more people, and hopefully you'll start seeing groundbreakings very soon.
I think you're right. It's one-of-a-kind project. I don't know anything really that is of this scale. And I think actually by the time you finish, you might even get a Guinness World Record or something of longest walkway.
It's the longest linear park in the world, the largest urban transformation program in the world. If you ask me, the nicest project in the world. But it is, and the interesting thing that I would like to note is that because of the nature of the project, we do touch on almost every other major project in the city, whether it's on the western end, Misk City and Diraya Gate, whether it's our adjacency to King Abdullah Financial District, how we loop around Princess Noura University, our simple connectivity that's going to be down towards the southern part of the city, how we're adjacent to the new airport, King Salman International Airport. And because of that micro-mobility offering, you really will be able to get all around.
Well, I can't wait till it's finished. Hopefully, I'll still be in Riyadh when it's finished. Just to wrap up, what will define success? Iconic destinations or cities where sport is a part of everyday life? I'd like you to start.
I think it's a trick question, because I think the answer is both. So I think where we've seen success is where, beyond the iconic destination, you are building those embedded sports communities and that deeper ecosystem. And I think one kind of final thought I would leave is, sports create a massive halo effect, both for the populations that live in the city and it inspires them to participate, the elite sports and the major venues with the major events. But that in and of itself isn't enough if you have built systemically around that what you need to continue to develop sports participation. And we're seeing a newish trend, around sports clusters like we work with Ciudad de Deportes in Madrid, with Atletico Madrid, which is now putting around, and actually there's a Saudi relevance there because it's Riyadh Air who sponsors the stadium, Atleti. And we're seeing that the city development of a major sports cluster with Top Golf, with a wave garden, with an athletics track, with one of the largest indoor music venues in the world, backed by private equity. And we're seeing the same thing with SoFi, with Hollywood Park. And there are other developments like this that are bubbling up, where I think probably answers that question really well, because it is both iconic venue and it's successful sports city, and in that case, a very discrete, self-contained cluster. So I think both.
I believe the same. It's not either or, it's and then. So I believe the iconic venues are important as a catalyst for the city integration to make it more sustainable. But we don't appraise the assets itself. If we build an iconic stadium for a city that isn't living, so it's not worth the investment. I believe it's a catalyst that integrate the city, and we don't build for display. We build for a life. So we need to create the need first, make people more vibrant and living, exercising, then we build the assets to meet that need. And I believe the Sport Boulevard has got it right.
Yeah. And to finish with you, Ahmed, iconic destinations or cities where sport is part of everyday life?
So I'd like to echo on what my fellow panelists have said. Especially because we are doing both. And I'd like to thank Salman because he's the biggest Sports Boulevard advocate, right, so far on the panel. We are creating the world's largest global sports tower. And this is an iconic, never before done feat, right, in the world. And this ticks the iconic asset or the iconic flagship development that we're making. It is catered to both the elite athletes and the amateurs and the hobbyists, etc. And so that, coupled with everything else we're doing, we are fundamentally delivering both aspects, because we do believe that you can't really have one success without the other, at least in the capacity of Sports Boulevard.
Well, the scale of ambition is, as you said, one of a kind. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. I hope the audience really got a lot of value out of that. And I think we're going to finish with a group photo. There's an agreement that's being signed. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your wisdom. And if you haven't visited Sports Boulevard, please do go and visit it. It is really, it's a wonderful walk. You can get a coffee there. I believe that there's even a soft opening of a fashion brand tonight. So do get yourself down there.
I want to come and ride it. When can I come and ride? Now?